Welcome to Don't Panic Geocacher, a video series devoted to giving you more knowledge on how to solve mystery geocaches. My name is Waterfan5, and today in this video I'm going to talk about book ciphers. Book ciphers is a specific puzzle technique that is very frequently used in geocaching mystery caches, and I will show you with some examples of how to work with book ciphers, some tools that might be helpful, and also some common practices used when book ciphers are part of the puzzle. So what is a book cipher? A book cipher is a specific cipher that uses a combination of key elements, and I'll explain it in a second where that is, to kind of index into a text. So that means that it needs two things. It needs some numbers and it needs a text. That could be a sentence, that could be a coordinate, that could be a song lyric, it could be really anything, right? And what the combination of numbers, sometimes called a tuple, will do is that they refer to parts of that text. Now, what part it refers to could be given, they could tell you, but often they don't. So it could mean a page, a chapter, a paragraph, a line, a text, a word, a letter, a sonnet, anything in the text, right? So, for example, you see here something that says 15, 11, 5, 2, and then with the separations in between. So in this case, that could mean page 15, line 11, word 5, letter 2. But it could also mean that it is chapter 15, line 11, word 5, letter 2. Or it could be completely the opposite, that it is all a mixture, so it doesn't have to be that the first one is the page, it could be the last one is the page. Order doesn't mean anything. So all these numbers, if it isn't given, you kind of have to figure out what means what. But in a lot of cases, it goes from larger to small, so page or paragraph would be the first, then line, then word, then letter. But there is no rules in geocaching, right? Nobody says that you have to follow the standard. And what you would do with this is that you calculate based on that you end up at a specific letter or sometimes a specific word. Sometimes it's words that you're looking for. So if you're looking at 4, typically it means paragraph or page, and then the next one is line, next one is word, next one is character, like this. If it's 3, it's typically line, word, and character. If it's 2, it could be line and character, or word and character. And if it's 1, it's either the character itself, so you have to count letters, or the difference to the next letter. It's quite commonly used as well, the delta to the next letter. So each one tells you where the next letter is, starting from the current point. This is no way that this is only option, but just it's the first thing you kind of should try when you see the number of parts, right, in it. So all of this is to say, how to get to a specific piece of text. Now, how do you recognize that? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, you need two things, right? You need a piece of text and you need a set of numbers. Sometimes the numbers could be hidden as well, but often that is the case, that you have these two very clear combinations that you see. And you often see that when the numbers that they have multiple sets associated. It could be a single, like I just mentioned, it could just simply mean the letter, or maybe there's another way to figure out how to get to the correct line in the text, for example. But if you see something where you see here these 3 combinations that you see here, often the first thing I would go to, it is a book cipher. The same doesn't mean the separator means anything. It could be a dot, it could be a colon, it could be a slash, but still, it still all means a book cipher. One key thing to notice is that since you're counting, you're often not counting with zeros. So most cases you don't see a 0 in the numbers, and that's a clear sign that you're looking at to count something. So if you don't see any zeros in the numbers, other than, for example, 10 or 20 or 30, you kind of means that you're dealing with a book cipher. Also, the numbers don't get too high, right? Because if you're counting the line number or the word number or the letter number, it's not very common that they get bigger than 20, right? So you don't expect very high numbers out there. And if you do get high numbers and you think it's a word number or something, then a book cipher, then you basically know, well, maybe I just have to count letters, right, from the beginning of the text. So, but if it's multiple parts, well, if the second one refers to a word, the second one won't say 30 because there is not that many words that have 30 in length, right? So take that into account when you start looking at it. So that is related to recognizing the numbers. So you need a number and a text, but what text it is, well, they need to tell you, right, somehow. So somewhere on the page, either it has the text, a lot of puzzles will simply just give you the poem, the book, or a lyric, or they have strong references to it, right? Now, if it gives the lyric or something on the page itself, then also it needs to be very clearly formatted, because it can't be that if you resize the page or look at a different device, that suddenly the line number would change, right? So that is something to take into account, that the formatting of the page is a hint that they wanted you to see that there are certain lines in place. It can't just be plain text that they would be look at. Now, one more thing, just a couple of standards, like how to count, right? So typically, and again, this is typically, not always, it's up to the cache owner's discretion what they use it. You typically only count letters and numbers. So you don't count spaces, empty lines, and anything that's a semicolon or a dot or anything other that's non-alphanumeric, you typically skip. So in this case, if the text is hello world, my name is Waterfan5, the M is letter 11. Hello and world both are 5, and so one more is the M. So we skip the comma, the spaces, and the exclamation mark. Similar, you have to distinguish between line and sentences. Often it refers to line, it's very clear formatting. But if there is no clear formatting, it might refer to sentence. So, hello world, my name is Waterfan5. Let me tell you about book ciphers. Line 2 starts with me, right? So this is the second line. Sentence 2 starts with my, right? Because that's the sentence. So take that into account of how to count as well. And the last one is just an often mistake. If you see any contractions, that's a single word. There's no spaces in between. So this is only 2 words. And so I would not have done that, which is not even correct, but the third word is have here, right? So that's important when you start counting. Now, often you may have to count a little bit more and you will see minor mistakes. And again, the cache owner may have said, no, I count spaces, I do this. There's no real rules of how to count. I'm just telling you common ways of how it's counted. So there's a variety of tools out there that you can use. And I will give you some links here. I will also use one of the tools in some of the examples that I'll explain in a second. The Decode website has one, Box and Tricks has one, and I've created one myself that I frequently use. So I will show you some examples of how to start counting. So, but yeah, and I will use, of course, in this case, my own tool to do that. But the other tools are also very good and have some unique features. The Book Cipher one from Box and Tricks has some great features where you can set the order of things, which is nice. So I'm going to use a poem, Hope by Emily Dickinson, and I'm going to use variations of book ciphers. So one that's paragraph, line, word, letter, one that's line, word, and letter, one word and letter, and one letter offset. And I'm going to use this poem, right? So basically it says 1144, paragraph, line, word, letter, first paragraph, first line, fourth word, and then fourth letter, and so on. So we're going to do that. So let's take a look. Okay, so let's try this using one of the websites that I just gave. Going to paste in the text. So you see that right here. So put the text in there. This is the text we're going to analyze. And then below it's the cipher text, right? So I'll do them one by one. I'll start them one by one. So I'll start with the first row that was given. and this was a paragraph, line, word, and letter. Well, it's 4 combinations, right? So that often means these 4: paragraph, line, word, and letter. This website shows, and it only has one combination that really has 4 parts, so that's really the only option we have here. And now we have to interpret this. Now, again, I'm following certain standards, but it doesn't mean the puzzle creator follows the same standards, right? So we don't counting empty lines, we don't counting special characters, we ignore spaces, stuff like that. But the cache owner may say, no, I'm counting empty lines and I'm counting spaces. It's all up to them. Makes it a lot harder because you now have to look at where they are. So, but let's do this, the first one. First paragraph, first line, so it's this one. Fourth word is 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth letter, it's an N. So we expect first letter an N, right? And then second one, so first paragraph still, second line, so it's this line. The fifth word, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, second letter O. Now, let's also do the last one and then we'll let the tool do the rest. Second paragraph, first line, fourth word, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then second letter, that is the H. So we start with NO, ends with H, right? And the tool does the rest. I mean, you kind of see north is the outcome here, right? So that's how a book cipher works. It's basically a lot of counting and making sure you're counting the right things and skipping the right things and not miscount. You also, of course, have to figure out what is the actual interpretation. I used it here from left to right, paragraph, line, word, letter. Nothing says that you couldn't do it the other way around, that it starts with letter, word, line, paragraph, right? Just because it's common convention doesn't mean it's being used. It just means it makes it slightly trickier because a lot of the tools wouldn't necessarily allow you to swap it around. Some tools will, some tools don't. You may have to solve it by hand. Take a look at the second part that was being given here. So in this case, it's a 3 variant. Well, there's a couple of them that are 3 variants. It could be a paragraph, a word, and a letter. Paragraph, a line, and a letter. But we're not looking for words here. We're looking actually for letters. Maybe that's already what we know, or maybe from the amounts that we have, we know we're not looking for specific words. So if we say the most common one would be line, word, and letter. But again, it doesn't need to be the truth, right? I mean, it could be something else. It could be paragraph, word. So go to the second paragraph, go to the fourth word. If it's not given, you may have to try all of them. Now the numbers may already a little bit help here, because we see, for example, the number 12. Well, 12, we have 12 lines here, so that looks pretty good. We have nothing higher than 12. But no sentence has 12 words. So we kind of know this probably refers to lines, right? Even if it wasn't given to us. Also, we don't have any words in here that are 12 letters long. So we also know it doesn't refer to that. So we're pretty sure that this is the letter part. And so if we start looking at the first one, first line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth word, right? And then first letter is an F. And the second one says, second line, third word, first letter is an I. So, and we see here that it is the word 50, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with 5 pieces, and now this decodes to the word 50. And so on. So let's go to the next one that we had in the text in the example. So now it's only 2 pieces. 2 pieces could mean anything. If we're looking for a word, it could be line and the word. There's a couple of variations. So line and the letter, word and the letter. There's all combinations, but most common will probably be line and letter, right? So we're looking for the third line, or we're looking for the third letter. So that would be a D, right? However, that would give us a problem because 13, we just discovered earlier, it only has 12 lines, right? So maybe this isn't it. And so if we would try to have the tool calculate it, it would give us all kinds of errors because it says there is no line 13. So this probably means that we're looking for word and letter. So let's try that. First word, third letter is a P. 11th word, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Second one is an O. So that's indeed P-O, it's the word point. So another variation, very straightforward, just with a number. Almost always this means offset, like in something, right? So in this case, in this poem, but of course, depending on what it is, it could be in a number as well. It could be an offset in pi, it could be an offset in any number that is relevant and of course is long enough, right? We don't have 83 words here, most likely, actually didn't count them, but pretty high number. So we're looking here for letter, and so we'll set it to letter. And now looking for letter number 19. Well, 4, 6, and again, skipping spaces, special characters. Kind of the standard. Most tools will do it that way, but may not be the case. The puzzle that you're trying to solve may say, no, you have to count all those. It does happen. So 4, 6, 9, 14, right? 18, 19. So that would be the letter F. Now 38 would be 19 more, right? So 7. So that would give us the I. So Fi. So let the tool calculate 5, right? So that means that let's say that this was a J. So you see it now change in the outcome, right? So it now becomes a J. So we have the word 5, and so that's one way of doing it. Now, something special that you sometimes see as well is that it's continuous. It's only possible if there's really one part. I've yet to see it with multiple parts where it says go back one line, but it kind of like continues from where you were. I guess technically it's possible to do it with lines as well. Go back one line, stay on the same line, go forward one line, go forward so many words, go forward so many letters, but it gets kind of tricky. Like I said, I haven't yet to see it, but with single numbers I've seen it quite frequently used. So for example, in this case, it's the 19th letter, which was the F again, right? And then go 19 forward, which would give us the 38, which would be right there. And then go 44 down, which would give us the V, and so on. So, of course, if I do a letter, it wouldn't do it, right? It would pick the 19, the 19th again, 44, whatever, somewhere around here. So the O, and 1 would be the H, right? However, if I say letter offset, then I get the 5 that I'm looking for. So that's really how book ciphers work. It's a lot of counting. It's a lot of trying the same text, right? So it's trying to have the correct version of the text, because even if it's referring to a standard text that may not be given on a cache page, you still have to figure out, do I have the right version? With song lyrics, different websites may have different versions. Even with Bibles, there's different variations. So it's very tricky with book ciphers to make sure you have the right text. Otherwise, the paragraphs, the lines, everything may be off, right? All your counting may be off. But yeah, still, if you do see a text or a reference to a text and numbers, especially if the numbers have multiple parts, right? Like I showed in the first example, where it has 3 or 4 parts in it, you're pretty sure you're going to look at some kind of book cipher. It is just a matter of what was being used, using paragraphs, text, etc., etc. So that's a little bit of. Okay, so let's take a look at one of my geocaches. So by me, I've been everywhere, man. So it's in the 3384 range, and it's not a field puzzle, and it has a checker, and the checker looks for exact coordinates, as we see here. Okay, so now you may already recognize from the title maybe where this is going, but in case you do not, there's some more hints in here. So the word geocache is misspelled here with cache. And I've been everywhere, many places, could write a book, so reference to a book cipher, or maybe in the olden days, Bart, or write a song about it. La la la, A is 1, B is 2. right? Making it even easier. This is probably something that we need later on. So trying to give as many hints as possible to help people trying to solve this puzzle. So, and we see here a typical something that looks like a book cipher where 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, which matches nicely that we need 14, we don't need a 0 for coordinates. So that all looks pretty good. So even more, so it talks about the geocache that it's purposely misspelled. So if you truly don't know, if you take the title and you put it in Google search, the first thing you pretty much pops up is the Johnny Cash song, right? I've been everywhere. And if we look at the lyrics, pops up right away. We see a lyrics here with several nicely formatted paragraphs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, quite a few of them. So pretty high number. And then it mentions all these cities in here. So probably going to be relevant for our puzzle. I've been everywhere. So let's take a look at our puzzle and let's try it as a book cipher now. Mentioned a high number of paragraphs, of course also a high number of sentences. But if we do a sentence, then we get a problem with things like 26. There's not many sentences with 26. So most likely this doesn't refer to sentence or letter because the number would be too high, right? So I'm looking here probably at paragraph, word, letter is probably what I'm looking at. So opening the tool and let's just try the first one. And indeed, out of the options, select paragraph, word, and letter as the options. Press action and go right here. And we see that's the 9th paragraph. So counting down. And the words 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we get the letter C as the first letter. So going back, putting the next ones back in again. So, and calculating 5, 5, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first letter is Charleston, CC. Now, mentioned somewhere in the text, A is 1, B is 2, stuff like that. So if we convert a C to a 3, and so on, we get a nice coordinate because C, C, D, F would give us 3, 3, 4, 6, which would nicely work with this puzzle, and the puzzle can be considered solved. Okay, I'll give you a hint towards one of my other puzzles. I won't completely solve it, but will at least go slightly further. So this is Scrapbook Fail, again by me, not a field puzzle. And we're looking here for an actual coordinate, right? This is the standard geochecker. Now this is actually a book cipher as well. So what you see here is actually just a book cipher. But as you see, it's not a standard one because it doesn't have really the word, line, etc. in there. So somehow we need to figure out how to utilize this. Now we have numbers 1 to 14. 1 to 14 immediately looks like kind of like a coordinate, 14, 15 digits. So that might already look in the right path. If you go a little bit further in the puzzle, you will find these coordinates. And so the hint that I'm giving you here is that somehow this is a book cipher into these coordinates. You just have to figure out what order to place these coordinates in, and that will be the remainder of the puzzle. Maybe in a future video I will give you that part of the puzzle. So little hint toward this one. So that's the end of this video about book ciphers. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe so that you get notified when new videos come out, but also so that other people can find this video series and help them with solving geocaching mystery caches. If you have a comment, please let me know. If you liked it, didn't like it, feel free to comment. It gives me feedback. Also, if you felt that I maybe omitted something or maybe could have added something or have other useful tips, feel free to leave that as part of the video as well. If you'd like to reach me with maybe a subject, feel free to ping me on the geocaching.com website. I can be found under WhatIfN5, or you can email me with your suggestions, tips, other ideas with geocacher.whatifn5@gmail.com. Thank you very much, and hopefully next time when you see a book cipher, you don't have to panic and know what to do. Thank you.